struggling at home with him at this time, and then as he got slightly older, it started then coming out in school a lot more.
And did you find that you just kept blaming yourself? How you were parenting almost?
I did obviously look at how I was parenting, and I kept trying to change strategies. Is this going to work? Is that going to work? Should I, got more consistent with him. Then it got worse, and I'm thinking, this isn't right. So I then started to seek help for him when he was 5 and a half.
And what was the outside view when you started to seek help?
It was me. It was learned behaviour. It was my parenting. Go on a parenting course. Do this, do that, do that. And of course at the time, I did do it all because I didn't know what was wrong. I had my suspicions. He did have a lot of autistic tendencies, but he didn't quite fit any criteria. So I was struggling to understand what was wrong, but I knew it wasn't just my parenting. No.
And talk us through the day when, I think it was your mother that in the end had to call the police because things got absolutely out of control.
Well, mainly at night time, Charlie would melt down, and it was bedtimes, and it would go on for 3-4 hours at a time. He'd absolutely trash his bedroom. I mean, he would lift a pine bed, solid pine bed and mattress at the age of 6 and move it, and he'd barricade, and and he'd attack me, and he seemed to have super strength, with that adrenaline going. He was very strong, and he just kept attacking, and I think I was at breaking point myself, and my mum, they lived 20 minutes away, my mum and dad at the time, and she said that's it. She phoned the police, and she needs help. They couldn't get there in time. It did take the police quite a while to come out because he was a 6-year-old boy, and they're like,
Well, they wouldn't. I think when they got there, they couldn't quite understand how you couldn't control a 6-year-old.
No, exactly. And it's sort of, well, you're 6. What's wrong with you? And they did walk in, and they were quite shocked and astounded by what the scene.
Well, when you took him out of school, I mean, you homeschooled him for a while as well.
No, I didn't homeschool him.
So well, he was expelled.
He got expelled. Yeah, he kept getting expelled.
You got a tutor in, and the tutor spent an hour or so.
Well, I took him out of. He went to a pupil referral unit, and because it's very behaviour strategies there, and it was making him worse. The anxieties were going, and I just said, "That's it. No, he's not going." Nobody knew what was wrong with him. He hadn't been assessed, and everyone was assuming. And I said, until you know, your strategies aren't working, and it's making him worse, and it's not fair to keep doing this to a child.
Exactly.
Looking at the programme, there's a mountain of paperwork that you had to go through. So much paperwork, but it was the programme that gave you the diagnosis.
Programme's been a lifesaver for us, absolute lifesaver, honestly.
And so what is the diagnosis?
Well, the diagnosis that we've come up with is a thing called pathological demand avoidance. Now,
and have you made that up?
No, it's not made up.
So it's called PDA.
PDA, let's call it PDA because it's less of a mouthful. And actually, it's not one of these cranky American things either. It's actually a diagnosis that was first described by a team in Nottingham, so it's a British thing. It's considered now to be part of the autistic spectrum, but the behaviours that cause trouble aren't typically the autistic type behaviours. It's very much the meltdowns, and I don't really want to call them tantrums because all children have tantrums. These are beyond tantrums, these violent outbursts that are uncontrollable. And what really is thought to cause them is, with the autistic spectrum, children don't really understand social cues, they don't understand uncertainty, they like to be in control of a situation. So these children, when they are doing what they want to do and feel comfortable with it, they behave fine. And often parents will describe them as being Jekyll and Hyde, when they're lovely, they're absolutely lovely. But doing something that's out of routine, that they're not prepared for, something that is even slightly different from normal, can cause massive anxiety. Now, it's an exaggeration of what happens with all of us, but what happens then is they melt down uncontrollably. Now, of course, what people pick up on is they just see this child being violent and aggressive and throwing things around, and the immediate reaction is, must be the parents.
So what do you do then? Yes, how do you treat that?
So the first thing really is, if somebody's got it, you can't cure it. It's the way you're made. So the first thing is recognising it. Now, of course, it is quite a controversial diagnosis, and there is a school of thought that says it's all made up. It's a safety blanket. It's an excuse for parents. But actually, there are children with it. That doesn't mean that every child who behaves badly has got it. And
well, there's lots of people online who are saying that they identify with these characteristics, even as we're speaking now.
Yeah, and I think with Charlie, it wasn't just the fact that he had these outbursts. It was very much other parts of his behaviour. The fact that he took things very literally. He didn't really get how to communicate with other children. He wanted to be friends with people, he just didn't know how to do it. And the issue is that children can't cope with social communication, they can't relate to people, they don't understand how other people are feeling.
We've got Charlie's here now, Charlie. Come and have a
Hey, Charlie.
Charlie. Lovely to meet you. Thank you very much for joining us, your mum. Just in our last few minutes, last few seconds, unfortunately. How is life now?
Fantastic. Well, I'll say fantastic. It still obviously all happens, but he's got education, has come on board with it so much, and because they're so brilliant at school with him now, he's still only part-time, he's not full-time. They understand him, they're really working on how to deal with him, and it's showing at home, so the anxiety's put down.
Can I just ask, do they know him? Do they know your proper boy now?
Yeah, they're getting to, and yeah, they've absolutely been fantastic with him, and with that level of understanding and that education.
He's such a lovely boy.
Thank you all very much. You're going to stay with us. But Charlie, it's lovely to meet you. Big thumbs up, Charlie. Great idea.
It's
absolutely.
For Ian, my tutor.
For Ian, your tutor, that's the big thumbs up.
Yeah.
Hi, Ian. There you go. We'll do the big thumbs up for him as well. There you go.
For my friend Reese and Finton, and Mrs. Hopper and Mrs. Rice.
Fabulous. Hello, Mrs. Hopper. Fabulous list of people who mean a lot to you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. It's the news now. Steve's